people? Rasate out here live in Singapore. Wanted to come on again and talk to you a little bit about love. I'm on fire today. I really, really feel like we have the ability to have some real love relationships, love connections, like really, really, really trust people, get to know people, understand people, but we got to put in effort. This is something that's built over time, not, in a couple of dates. So I'm talking about the kind of love where you get married and you stay married like forever. Why? Because you know from the beginning that you're able to live on your own. You are able to exist outside of this person, but you don't want to. And that's the difference. It's not that you need the other person. You can do good by yourself. You are whole by yourself, but you want the other person with you. And they are also whole by themselves, but they want to be with you. That's that mutual feeling between the two of you guys. But the thing we don't have is a lot of people out here really feel like they just need someone with them. They need another body. And that's what they're not actually willing to admit either. They want a warm body. They're not saying that they want that specific connection. They want a warm body. And this one's available right now. And chances are I might not get another one. So I'm just going to go with the one I have here. But that doesn't make long-term relationships. That isn't how you build something that lasts over time. Stonehenge wasn't built in a day. I guarantee it. Well, okay, I can't guarantee it. I don't know if it's alien made or not. But the point being that these things weren't built in a day. Rome is still Rome after I don't know how many years. The viaducts, the plumbing, all that stuff, that brilliant damn city was not built in a day. It was built over time. It was a lot of planning. It was a lot of risks that were taken that panned out and some that didn't. I mean, they really, really, really put effort into that. But we aren't willing to put effort into our relationships at the moment because we really feel like, it needs to be here now or it's not real. It needs to be an instant connection or it's not real. Something I really discovered over the course of understanding what a twin flame relationship is the fact that both these people come together initially as imperfect people, as people who are not whole yet. But through the course of their interactions, they push each other without knowing, obviously. They trigger each other into finding wholeness within themselves. Sometimes it's a very, very difficult relationship to start off with, but it means that you're not going to allow for these little things to come between you. So you're going to do your best to actually put things in place so that you don't need the other person, but you are in a place where you can have them in your life and it doesn't change your life one way or another. Case in point being that I've been on a path so far, right, where I'm trying really hard to be the best possible version of myself. Now, as an entrepreneur, I don't have all that skill set. I don't have, I'm not $1 million entrepreneur right now. One day I will be, but right now I'm not. But the dream is still there. And so as I work little by little towards this big goal, I'm learning that I have to pick up certain skill sets to make myself whole. Who I was 5 years ago was good enough for the life I had 5 years ago. But who I am now is not the same as that person from 5 years ago. I've had to pick up some skills. I've had to lose some things, gain others. I've had to take risks and fall flat on my face a couple of times in order for me to get to where I am now. And even now, there are so many things I need to learn. At the moment, I feel like I am whole. At the moment, I am alienated from everybody a little bit because that's just kind of how I am. I am friends with everyone. I am fun and outgoing. I think I'm friendly and courteous to everyone that I meet. But the point being that I don't depend on any one person. I don't, because I have learned over the course of time that I can't depend on any one person because those people have their own lives and their own needs and their own wants as well. So chances are scheduling might come between us, which means I might not be able to meet up with those people, or if I call them, they might not be busy. They might be busy enough where they can't answer me or can't be where I need them to be right when I need them to be there. So for the most part, I've become quite independent. I've become quite self-sufficient. I've learned how to manage my life on my own. And I'm okay. I'm all right. There are services provided by the government and the public that allow me to ask for help when I need it. And I am taken care of because there are 24-hour hotlines. Like, let's think about this honestly, right? Our friends, our family members are not supposed to be available to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have their own things to be worried about. They have their own goals, their own dreams. So work and their relationships and their goals will take them on a different journey. And sometimes we can reach each other and connect, and sometimes we reach out and we can't connect. And that's supposed to be okay. I'm not supposed to fall apart when I reach out and I don't connect to anybody. I think I've mentioned this in a couple episodes before. A lot of times I'll call my brother to vent, to help me see straight because I'm overly emotional and can't seem to get out of it myself. Now, more often than not, he doesn't answer the phone. Like today, I've called him twice, not for anything in particular. I just wanted to talk to him just to see how he's doing, but I haven't heard from him. And that isn't derailing my train of thought, though. That doesn't change my entire day because I know at some point he's going to call me back. I'm not too worried about the fact that what he's doing, whether he's avoiding me or not. It's not even a question. But for the most part, I can manage. I can deal with my own things. What I'm finding though is a lot of people are expecting the other person in the relationship or the friendship to be able to pick up the slack when they can't. And that is a huge expectation. People don't seem to understand when you have expectations like that, the likelihood of you being disappointed by the other person is really, really big. The point being that you're supposed to be able to manage your life for the most part on your own. I'm not saying you should be self-sufficient to the point like you're a robot, not like that at all. I'm saying on a day-to-day basis, you should pretty much have your household under control. You should know what goes on where, how to manage these things, and if you need to ask for help, you know who you can go ask. A lot of times, though, if you can't connect with someone who can help you, you should not be in a position where you'd fall apart, though. Does that make sense? Like, for a while, I depended on my mom being here to be able to take care of baby girl if I had a casting opportunity or an audition that I had to go for, or maybe like filming. And there was several times where I was filming Arivan where we started off at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, let's think about this. Single mom, if I didn't have someone living in the house with me, how was I supposed to swing that? I wouldn't, right? Which is why a lot of times directors will ask you, hey, what is your availability like? When are you available to come and shoot with us? Is it something that, you're working and it has to be after hours, or maybe you work weekends, so then it has to be during the week that we shoot with you. So those things are something that people ask about. Now, when my mom left in January, I was in a bit of a pickle and I had to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do so that I am available to still be able to film in the event that they film after the time that baby girl gets home from school. Now, for a couple of years now, baby girl has been coming home from school at 1:30 in the afternoon, and I've been happy to go pick her up because I was around. And if I wasn't, my mom was able to pick her up for me. But once January hit, 2020 has been all about putting your big girl panties on, right? 2020 hit, my mom left, and suddenly I had to put her in daycare, which I am very grateful. There is a daycare attached to her school. She doesn't have to go anywhere. She walks from one building to the next building without leaving the compound at all, and she's taken care of. And I am covered until about 7 p.m., which is very, very reasonable. Now, with that being said, if I hadn't put that in place, I would be stuck. I would have to run around at the last minute trying to find out who's available, keyword available, to help me out if I had a shoot. Now, I did that a couple times before I actually put her in student care because I had to start in February, not in January. I wasn't able to get her in January. But the point being, I had to manage for a couple weeks on my own until I was able to put that in place. Once I put that in place, no problem. No sweat, I just carried on my merry way. But that's what I'm talking about. In the most difficult of situations, you should have a contingency plan. You should have a backup. What can you do in the event something doesn't work out the way you want it to? Let's say I started cooking something, and let's say I didn't cook it very well, and the first time we ate it, we had diarrhea. What do? I need to have other food in the house so that I can actually either cook it right away, or I can fix this dish, or I have other food that's already cooked that I can just thaw out and start eating. I can't panic because I had to throw out a whole dish because it made us sick. I can't panic and then be stuck all of a sudden. I need to have a contingency plan, which is why we don't plan for the next meal, for the next meal, for the next meal. We plan a whole week in advance, or maybe a couple weeks in advance. We make sure that we have food in and around the house so that if whatever is cooked finishes, I have something else to be able to cook in the meantime until I have a chance to go to the grocery store. This whole thing about pandemic panic buying, right? I should have some stuff in the house that doesn't go bad, that is unfortunately in a can, that I can cook on a, last minute. I don't have anything else. I can't get to the store. I don't have money maybe, that I can cook in the house. I cannot afford to be in a state of panic every time something goes wrong. I need to have contingency plans. So the same thing with relationships. I need to know what I need to do in order to take care of myself before I introduce someone else into my household. Let's say tomorrow I get married. I need to know how I like the house cleaned, how I would, take care of my own child and myself, how I make sure that we manage the money and the food and the laundry, all of those little things within the house before I get someone else involved in my household. And at that point, which is something I know for a fact none of us do until we're pushed into a situation where we have to talk about it, we don't discuss how we like things kept. We don't discuss what the other person's house is like when we go over to visit or spend time with them. We don't discuss stuff like, oh, well, I really don't like dust, so would you mind making sure that there's no dust around because I'm allergic, or whatever the case may be. We don't talk about those things, and we really, really should. It shouldn't be one of those situations where you suddenly move in with each other and suddenly you're dealing with all of their wonderful habits, good, bad, and ugly. We don't talk about these things. We don't build things to last. And that worries me, because how are we supposed to live in a society where we all take care of each other when we're not used to taking care of our spouse or taking care of ourselves for that matter? So when I talk about relationships and trust and building things that last, when I talk about really being whole on your own before you meet someone, before you introduce them into your life, and knowing that they are on their way to becoming whole as well, so then that doesn't become a codependent relationship. You co-regulate together. He has his things and I have my things, and together we have some things as well. But because we have separate interests, we don't get on each other's nerves. We can allow each other to go out and do our own thing, but we all come home together at the end of the night, and we do get along within those four walls. It's a very, very different concept. It's not about the other person pleasing you. It's not about the other person making sure you're happy. That's not it at all. I hate that word. You can't make anyone happy. You can enhance their happiness. You can remind them of their happiness. You can be an excuse for them to be happy. But you can't make anyone or anything happy. So in order for us to really build good relationships, we need to know about ourselves first. We need to know how to communicate next. And then we need not be dependent on anyone else in order for us to find our own joy. I'll tell you something. When I moved out of my first fiance's house, I moved out. We broke up. I moved out. I didn't want to share the apartment anymore. I wanted to move out on my own. And guess what? That silence was deafening. Why? Because until I moved out on my own, which up until that point, I was 23, 24, I had never lived on my own before. Up until that point in time, I had lived with someone, either a roommate or with him, and it was always about vitukkuritafani, which means giving space for the other person, allowing the other person to have enough space so that they are happy. It wasn't about putting down boundaries and letting them know what I need. It was all about getting to know what they need and making sure I had what they needed. That was it. And that's codependent, because then when they're not happy, suddenly I feel like I'm not good enough, because guess what? I somehow managed to make sure that my world revolved around theirs. That is not the sign of a whole person. I need to be able to tell you what I need just as much as you're able to tell me what you need. As much as I'm interested in knowing what makes you tick and how you like things, I need someone who wants to know the exact same thing about me. I need to feel safe enough where I could open my mouth and tell you those things, knowing that you're going to take them seriously. So this is what I mean. I mean happy, whole people who come together because they want to, not because they need the other person. You didn't marry someone specifically because they have a skill set that you don't. Like maybe they're good around the house and you're not, and that's why you married them. That shouldn't be the case. Back in the day, it was all about alliances and, property and wealth. It's not like that anymore. We get to choose for ourselves. These are love marriages, right? They're not arranged marriages anymore. So if you're allowed to choose for love, why wouldn't you make sure you really test and make sure the other person is capable of loving you the way you want to love them? And it's not going to be exact. There are so many things to consider. The 6 human needs that Tony Robbins talks about. The 5 love languages that, oh goodness, I can't remember his name now. But the 5 love languages, you know exactly what they are. If we don't explore those things with the other person, we'll never know if we actually speak in a language that they understand. It's not enough to speak English, both of you. You need to speak in such a way that they understand what you're saying. There are still nuances to the language. It includes triggers from, how you hold your body. I know for a fact that I get triggered every time my brother grits his teeth. I know he's pissed off at that point. But if I don't speak the language, he doesn't understand that upsets me and that puts me on my guard all of a sudden, because now I know he's going to yell at me about something. He's judging me for something. He's upset about something. I need you guys to know each other so well so that you really can communicate and really build something to last. I was never a big fan of the idea of divorce, But sometimes I get it. You can't make it work. Guess what? As much as I'm not a big fan, I am divorced because I couldn't make it work. Part of that was my fault. Part of that is his. And guess what? It takes two hands to clap. So in order for you to come together with the other person and make some real noise, you both got to be in a whole place. So I hope that makes sense, you guys. You got any questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments below. I will get to you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, please hear what I'm saying. I want you to have meaningful relationships. I want you to actually really feel loved, not under the illusion of love because they messaged you right when you messaged them. I'm talking about really feel loved. I'm talking about really feel like you have a safe place to crash if you ever needed to crash. Because they got you and you got them. But you still have your own space. You still have room enough to be yourself within the relationship. All right, you guys, I got to go, but I will catch you again soon. Y'all take care.